IVM.
There's a quick survey to fill out on ivmpodcast.com/survey. It lets us know a little bit more about who's listening to us. And you know what? We're going to do a few prizes. So, we'll do a random drawing of maybe 10 people and we'll send you all some swag. Remember, that's ivmpodcast.com/survey where you can fill out the survey.
One of the enduring memories of childhood for most of us would be the silly bickering and fighting that we did with our siblings. Many of us recollect them as very sweet memories. But there are families that have had their memories and moments ruined by seemingly trivial sibling fights that blow up beyond redemption. Surprisingly, sibling conflicts can endure beyond childhood, ruining relationships for life. During childhood, sibling conflicts can be a source of constant exhaustion and worry for parents. Join us in this episode where Meghna and I discuss the psychology behind sibling conflicts, the causes for sibling rivalry, how parents unconsciously further sibling rivalry, and strategies to tackling it effectively.
Almost every job in the world requires training, except parenting. You need to learn parenting on the job, and that can be really hard. Here on Big Talk about Tiny Humans, we want to help you navigate the world of parenting better and make your lives a little bit easier. Hi everyone, I'm Meghna.
And hi, I'm Devishobha.
Every week we bring you the best research on parenting,
Top tips from experts,
and actionable strategies to confront the numerous challenges that all parents and educators face.
So let's get started, shall we?
Hi Meghna, how are you this week?
I'm good, Shobha. How are you?
Good. Why? I'm good. What happened?
See, it's ironical, right? We're talking about sibling conflicts and sibling rivalry. My kids also fight a lot. And now that their exams are over and their summer vacations, every day I have to sit and sort a new fight. So it's just very ironic that we're talking about sibling rivalry and conflict. And I deal with this every day at home, despite being a clinical psychologist, despite being a parenting coach. So I think I need to start by telling our listeners out there that it's okay. It is bound, sibling rivalry and sibling conflict is bound to be there. And it's pretty normal. But you know what, as you said, that as parents, we need to teach them skills to get along, which is not always commonsensical. So it's very ironic that we're talking today about sibling rivalry, whereas every day in my house, I see myself firefighting.
Absolutely. In fact, just this afternoon, when my older daughter came back from school, there was a big fight at lunch, and we had to actually separate them physically at the dining table to stop the fight. So I think it's a very common thing.
Yeah.
It's a very common thing, but it also carries the danger of, carrying over to adulthood. So Meghna, I would like to ask you start by asking you, what is the psychology behind sibling rivalry? And is there a difference between sibling conflict and sibling rivalry?
I think that's a very good question, because a lot of times we use them interchangeably. So right. For the purpose of clarity, sibling conflict is any fight that happens between two siblings or three siblings or however many number of siblings. And rivalry is when that conflict, sort of snowballs into something bigger, so that even when you're not actively fighting or having a conflict, there is that feeling of, jealousy. There is that feeling of, it's unfair how my parents always favor the other child, my sibling, all the time. So it's that strained relationship, that feeling of feeling threatened by your sibling, right? So that is rivalry. But a conflict is just like a fight or a clash between siblings. And coming to the psychology of sibling rivalry, see, it's very, very hard for children to have to share us. In fact, when a younger sibling is born, virtually all children worry that they aren't good enough. Why else would their parents have gotten a newer and younger model, right? So it literally starts from there. And the basic funda is that each child is competing to define who they are as an individual, right? They want to show that they are separate from their siblings. They want to feel that equal amount of love and attention and responsiveness from their parents. And of course, they might feel left out. They might feel threatened by their siblings. So that is the psychology of sibling rivalry.
Right. So I mean, what you said makes a lot of sense, but there are examples of siblings that are the best of friends, right? And there are examples of siblings that there is a deep undercurrent of pensiveness. There is a deep undercurrent of resentment that they cannot even show outside. And usually, when do you see this developing? Around what age? Do you have, from your experience, do you have like a ballpark figure?
Well, as I said, it can actually start right from when the parents bring home a second child, right? But the deeper problem, the deeper resentment, the deeper feeling of, feeling unsafe or threatened can happen by a lot of things that parents can unconsciously fuel, right? Like when the parents don't, and I receive this a lot in my therapy practice, when the child is a toddler, when the older one is a toddler and a new, the second born comes home, obviously the older child, who's probably just a toddler or a preschooler, feels that what just happened? Why did my parents get another person? From the parents' end, there is usually what I've seen is there is lack of conversation about who this baby is. What is your relationship with this baby? Usually what I find them saying is things like, Arey, your friend is coming, your brother is coming, or your sister is coming, and you can play with them. But that's not true, right? They can't immediately start playing with them. So the expectations are not set, and they usually don't have conversations about their place in the family. So, I mean, this is usually the starting point. And of course, it can unfortunately get worse from there. I've seen many extreme cases also where unfortunately the older one, like literally deep rooted, there's a very deep rooted feeling that, my parents don't love me, which is actually not true. The parents might obviously love the child to the end of the world, but just because the newborn needs more care and more attention, just because the mother needs to be physically around the newborn more, and even questions that parents ask, like, is it okay for my older one to be in the same room when I'm nursing my baby? Some basic questions that, parents are confused about. So when the older child is separated, and kept away, then obviously they end up feeling that, what, I'm not loved. So a lot of this can happen, which ultimately, if it's not sorted out at a younger age, can result in extreme feelings of resentment.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that, Meghna. At this note, let's take a short break and come back to hear more about what lies at the root of sibling rivalry and how parents propagate it unconsciously, and also listen to some strategies to nip it in the bud.
Hey, it's been another great week on the IVM Podcast Network. On Advertising is Dead, Varun talks to co-founder and CEO of Yoga Bar, Suhasini Sampath. She shares the secrets behind making energy bars without preservatives. On Voices for Water, Karthik asks Dr. Bhakti Devi, founding president Water Resources Council, about water literacy in India. On Ek Chuski Finance, Priyanka explains the concept of a financial slam book. On Pulyabazi, Pranay and Saurabh ponder over how the Indian armed forces can reduce the cost of pensions. And on Marathi Kidskintha, the Deshmukhs explore the works of the popular writer Ramchandra Chintaman Dere. Do follow us on social media. We're IVM Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And remember, if you're enjoying this show or any of our other shows for that matter, please do tell a friend. Also, please don't forget to rate us on any of the platforms you're listening to us on. And remember, you can always check us out on YouTube. We have a number of channels. You can go to ivmpodcast.com/YouTube to take a look at what those channels are. We're also doing a small listener survey to understand how you respond to our shows and the advertising on the network. We would really, really appreciate it if you could spare a few minutes to fill it out. It really helps us build better shows for you and understand what you're looking for from advertising and what we can talk to advertisers about who you are. Please go to ivmpodcast.com/survey. It really, really, really would help us out. Thank you so much. And finally, would like to thank our sponsors for the network this week: SBI Life Insurance, India Water Portal, and Jupiter, a digital banking app. Thank you so much for making this possible.
Okay, welcome back. So, Meghna, as you were saying, parents can unconsciously further sibling rivalry without ever meaning to. And what you say is so true, because I had a friend. In fact, I can recall two friends off the top of my head who have shared stories with me about their relationships with their siblings. One of them actually told me that their parents used to make a rule, at the dining table, where the older one, her older sister was a slow eater, right? So they had made a rule where this child, I mean, my friend, right? In fact, she was only an acquaintance, but I don't know why she shared it. We were having breakfast after a 10K run or something. And that's when she shared it. And she was from the UK actually. And she told me that her parents used to make her also sit even after she had finished her meal, just to give her company, the older sibling company, because she hadn't finished her meal and nobody would wait for her at the table. And so it was her responsibility to wait up. And that actually kind of ballooned into something bigger. And she kind of resented being around her sister even, right? So I think these kinds of small things. Another friend told me that her sister used to be more valued because of her looks, because of being good at academics, because of, I don't know, various things, right? So I think, is it safe to assume that parents are a big cause for sibling rivalry, or are there other causes?
See, unfortunately, this is obviously not to blame the parents in any way, because they love both their children, and they end up doing things which are very unintentional. So I would not sort of point my finger and say that parents are the ones who fuel sibling rivalry. But yes, there are a number of things that we as parents can be conscious of, can be aware of in our own behavior, and make an effort to stop or avoid doing those things. And one of the first things, which I think all of us have also gone through, I know, is comparing their kids with each other. My sister always used to get the best grades. Why can't you? She's so good at maths. Why aren't you? So by comparing the child, by highlighting only one child's talents and successes and not with the other child, they unconsciously fuel sibling rivalry by favoring one child over another. I find this very commonly in families. वो छोटा है, उसको दे दो. What does it mean? Just because a child is younger does not mean they get more privileges. That is why a lot of the firstborns usually say that, what, my mama doesn't love me because, whatever I play with I'm supposed to share it with the younger one, and the younger one is not supposed to share it with me. So it's kind of unfair and unequal, right? Another reason, which is really out of anybody's hands, is that when two kids in a family or three kids are temperamentally different, okay? And what happens then is they evoke different responses in the parents. For example, a child who is maybe a little more stubborn or a little more strong-willed may evoke a response that is different from the response evoked by a child who's more easygoing.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that in itself sort of will make the more easygoing child say that just because, I'm cooperative does not mean that, you don't pay any attention to me. Yeah. And attention is another factor, right? That the amount of time and attention and effort that one child may organically, naturally demand would be different in different families as compared to their sibling. Okay, so by not spending enough time with each child, by not giving each child enough individual attention, just by virtue of the fact that one child demands more of your attention, is also how parents can fuel sibling rivalry. And the most, usually a very important factor in this whole dynamic is how parents themselves fight, have conflicts in front of their kids, that they are unable to model healthy ways of conflict resolution. And that is usually a big reason why, see, all children fight, all siblings fight, right? But this is one of the reasons when, the degree of conflict and the degree of aggression is high in families. In those families, we've seen that there is much more sibling conflict and there is much more sibling rivalry.
Absolutely. When you say, where families with lots of, conflicts, so doesn't it sometimes lead to the situation where it also, leads to a lot of cohesion among siblings because, the parents are less available? I have seen the other way too, because this happens too. So have you seen the other way too also?
Yes, but that is less common, unfortunately. We would want them to have a united front because, we are there for each other because, our parents are just busy fighting. But a more common scenario is, unfortunately, that children, just by virtue of seeing their parents fight, learn that this is okay, learn that this is normal, and they are not able to learn effective ways of skills of what I was mentioning in the beginning, skills to get along and skills to, be able to fight healthily, right? There's also something called healthy fights, right? How to resolve your conflicts in a healthy manner. So that's the disadvantage of the parents fighting. And if you want to fight, see, the conflict between spouses is again the most common thing in the world. There is not one couple, show me one couple who's never had a fight, right? But it's the way you argue, and it's the way you have a conflict, and it's the way you model and show it to your kids. See, mama and appa are disagreeing, but you know what, this is how we handle and this is how we sort out our disagreement. That bit is super important.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Meghna, what you say, I hear you saying that modeling, good conflict resolution skills is one necessary thing to be able to nip sibling rivalry in the bud, or sibling conflict from, ballooning into sibling rivalry. What other strategies do you recommend?
Okay, so I'll talk about some generic things that parents can do, and I'll talk about 4 specific steps. So, nipping sibling rivalry in the bud, I'll talk about the general strategies, and I'll talk about 4 specific steps for sibling conflict, how to resolve a sibling conflict. Suppose your kids are fighting in front of you. Okay. So, the first thing is about nipping it in the bud, right?
Right.
It comes from the causes, right? What I told you about what parents can do unconsciously to fuel sibling rivalry. Obviously the methods of resolving it comes from those. So the first thing is, let each child be who they are. Don't try to pigeonhole them. Don't compare them with each other. Celebrate their individual talents, celebrate their individual successes, and set your kids up to cooperate rather than compete. So when you're eating dinner, instead of like the example that you gave, right? Don't say that, let me see who finishes first, or you're forcing the one child to sit until the other one finishes. Set it up in such a way that they are cooperating with each other. Okay, how can you help your sister finish her meal faster? Or when, your kids are young and they're playing with their toys and the toys are strewn all over, instead of saying, let me see who picks up the toys the fastest, that is fueling a very competitive mentality. Switch it to a more cooperative mentality. Have them race against the clock rather than against each other to pick up the toys, right?
Right.
Another thing that you can do is, and this is really something that you can teach your children, teach them what are some of the positive ways in which they can get attention from each other, right? Beta, you want your sister's toy? How will you ask her for it? Right? You want to share something? What will you say so that she's more likely to share it with you, right? So this teaches them skills. Okay, how do I approach them? How do I ask them to play? Please involve me in your play, Didi, like things like that, right? So these things have to be taught. How do I get attention? How do I share? How do I get something that I want? And of course, and I can't emphasize this enough, make sure that you spend enough time with each child individually. And I talk about this all the time, right? I call it connection time. It's amazing how much even just 10 minutes of uninterrupted one-on-one time with each child can mean to them. So always keep your connection going. It should not feel like to your child that, what, my mama is always spending time with the baby, or my mama is always spending time with the elder one or the younger one or whatever, right? So these are some general tips to sort of nip it in the bud. Okay. And I would like to talk about the 4 steps that I was saying, right? And those are mostly, the steps that you will take to really diffuse the conflict, right? As well as teach the skills. So the first thing is, of course, as you said, that, physically separate make sure nobody's bleeding, right? Because sometimes you do have to physically separate the fighting children. Yeah. So, okay. So I'll talk about 4 Bs. Okay, they're my 4 Bs of managing sibling conflicts. The 4 Bs are breathe, bucket, boundaries, and behavior. Okay, so the step 1 is breathe. So this is all about calming yourself down, not rushing in to punish the kids, not rushing in to solve the problem. Usually the first step is breathe, because Shobha, when you see your kids fighting, any parent, our first reaction is, hey, what are you doing?
Stop it.
Stop it. Why are you fighting like animals, right? So the first thing that you do when you see your children fight is pause. You take a deep breath, you count to 5. Your staying calm is super important. Don't react. I know it's difficult, but don't take sides. I know it's super, 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 super difficult. But if you take sides or if you pass judgments about who is right, your kids will trap you in a cycle of Mama, see what she's doing. Appa, see what. And this will continue. They will treat you as a referee. A lot of mothers come to me and say, I'm just a referee, right? And I'm like, who asked you to step into that role? Just because your kids are inviting to be the referee doesn't mean you have to become one, right? So don't rush in to take sides, to pass judgments. Don't rush in to give a solution. And definitely, of course, don't rush in to punish. Just describe what you see. What you see is happening. I see that both of you want to play with the same teddy. I see you hit your brother. Oh, because he took your teddy. Oh, I see you crying because you're in pain. So you're just describing what you see after you calm yourselves down. So that's the first step. That's breathe. The second step. Why do I call it bucket? Bucket means you filling your child's bucket of emotional needs, because your children are also in a state because they're fighting. Their thinking brain has shut down, their feeling brains have taken over, they are feeling unsafe, they are probably in a fight or flight, their brain is in a fight or flight zone. So the second step has to be that you calm down the children. And how do you do that? You calm them down by empathizing with their feelings. Oh, you must be so upset that your brother took away the toy that you were playing with. Oh, beta, you want to play with the teddy too, but you know what? Your sister doesn't want to share it with you. That must be so frustrating. So all you do is you empathize with their feelings. And this alone, when you understand how they feel, when you let them know that you understand how they feel, this alone helps them calm down a lot. Right. Okay. So you're not pronouncing any judgments on who's right, who's wrong. You're describing what you see. You're coming from a place of calm yourself, and you're empathizing with your kids. Okay. So that's bucket. And of course, you're also sort of, coaching your children to listen to each other. If somebody's interrupting while you're listening to them, you say that, let your brother talk. I first need to hear what your brother has to say. Then you will have a chance to say what you want to and all that. Okay. The third step, the third B is boundaries. Boundaries means you are basically helping your kids know what is acceptable and what is unacceptable behavior. So you're setting limits and boundaries, right? The message that this step gives is that all feelings are okay. Remember, you've empathized with the feelings. So feelings are okay. All behavior is not okay, right? I understand how angry you're feeling, beta. Even I feel angry sometimes, but hitting is not okay. I cannot let you hit. Right. Mm-hmm. So you're empathizing with the feeling, but you're drawing a boundary around the behavior. Okay. And then you help the kids draw boundaries with each other. Like, what? You can ask your brother nicely, please don't run away with my toys, or please don't snatch my toys. You can ask me nicely. And so you coach that, you coach that. And that is the fourth step. The fourth step is basically behavior. The fourth B is behavior, wherein you are coaching the right behavior. How are you coaching this behavior? Your kids need these skills. This is skills that I was talking about in the beginning. You're helping your children learn problem solving. You're helping your children learn conflict resolution. You're helping them learn negotiation. You are not giving the solution. Rather, you're just saying, there is one teddy and both of you want to play with it. I wonder what we can do about it. What should we do? Don't give solutions. Take suggestions from your children. They will struggle with ideas. They will struggle with, what should be the solution. But that's how you teach them. Offer a few ideas, but you know what? Also teach them, okay, you can have it for some time and then you have to have it, so it's a constant process of teaching them, okay, this is how, we can meet both your goals and yet ensure that, we are being fair, right? So the fourth B is basically coaching the right behavior. And, that's basically the crux of teaching your children skills, how to resolve their own conflicts. I mean, they will still keep coming to you. Please don't hope that with these 4 Bs, your job is done. You might have to do this many, many, many times.
Yeah.
I mean, I still do it.
I remember you used the very apt word trapped. Parents get trapped into this. But there's no better way to do this. So thank you for that. I would also like to know, Meghna, from you. So what happens when parents, or should I frame it as, what happens when sibling conflicts don't end during childhood and it actually has passed on to adulthood? And how can that be resolved in adulthood?
It's difficult, right? Because you can't sit and take each and every incident from your past and analyze it and say, okay, this is what should have happened. This is what did not happen. It's just painful, right? And I think what we can just do when the children have become adults now. By adults, I think you're meaning 18 plus, right?
Yeah.
Or do you mean
Yeah.
adolescents? Okay. So when they're adults, you can't really force them to cooperate, but you can still, what you can do is you can create opportunities wherein they are working together on the same task. So for example, both your kids are adults, they've moved out, and maybe you're having a Diwali celebration at home.
Right.
So you would say that, I would want both of you to do something in common. Like, can you take the responsibility of decorating the house?
Right.
Something that they are working towards common. So basically, see, the whole point of our discussion is that we are creating opportunities for them to, one, cooperate, of course, but also to sort of tell them that, what, each of you have an important place in this family.
Right.
And that's how you honor their individual, talents and qualities and whatever it is that they bring to the table. Right? It should not be ki, "Arey, tum ye bhi nahi kar sakte." His sister is so much better at this than you are. And so even if my sister is better at this than I am, what am I good at? Right? Just sort of highlighting that and working towards a common goal, I think. And also what I've seen is, as the kids get older, creating more opportunities for spending, because they start having their own crazy schedule, and so the family moments, the shared moments of connectedness and togetherness reduce. So making a conscious effort to really just get together as a family. I remember when I was doing my postdoc in University of Queensland, Australia, and my of course my lab head, Dr. Matt Sanders, he told me this once, that he is as old as he is. I mean, he's the head of the the parenting and family support center, and he said till date, and he had adult children, and he said till date we have a tradition wherein no matter what, we will all get together Sunday night for a family dinner. No matter what, of course, except for if you're traveling out of country or even within country. Except for that, that's the only exception to this rule. No matter what you're doing, no matter where you are, who you're with, that Sunday evening family dinner, that weekly dinner ritual that they had formed was sacrosanct. And he said, I can't tell you that despite having 3 adult children, this one ritual has kept us going.
Wow.
So, I mean, it requires a whole lot of discipline, right? It's not easy. But I mean, he's done it, like even with adult children.
Yeah.
So I think.
And also, I think requires a whole lot of other things to come together. Like your children have to be in the same city as you are.
Of course, you have to be in the same city. Of course, I'm talking about not if you're across the country.
Of course,
can't fly from Bombay to Bangalore every time. But obviously, within.
I know
limits,
many
right?
families get together at least once or twice a year for a shared family holiday. They go out. They bring all their children together and their extended families together to spend some time. So that's a time for reconnection.
So I'm thinking, Shobha, that if you are still, in different parts of the country, you can still fix a time to get together on a video call. Like every Sunday morning, no matter what, all of us will get together on a video call. And that is something that's doable. But look, my point is that, see, you're communicating very strongly. Our value as a family is that we give importance to our family.
Right.
We get together, we share, we talk. And that time, that sharing and talking time for us is like non-negotiable.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's how you communicate that, what, each and every member of this family is important, which is a very powerful message.
Absolutely. In fact, one of the things that I did with my younger daughter, because I've been spending so much time with my older one for her exams and other things. And we had an opportunity, my younger one and I had an opportunity to spend a few days together, just the two of us, right? Because my older one, because I had corona, and my older daughter and my husband were in another city. So they were there and we were here. So at that time, I made it a point to actually spend a lot of time together with her, quality time, and bring in, after I got well, of course, I actually ordered in and we had a, quiet meal together. We watched some shows together. So it just kind of reinforced the feeling that for her that, Amma is ready to spend some special time for me. And this is just my precious time with her. And I also told her that, so I really treasure those moments because I feel that that was a bonding opportunity for us to reinforce her importance in our lives, in my life, and, reconnect with her. And she also said, Amma, I love this time with you alone. This reminds me, in fact, I had forgotten, but this reminds me that one of the times that when they were younger, my older daughter had gone for a school trip right? And I remember my younger daughter, coming to me and saying, "Ma, I love this day." And I said, "Why? What happened?" And she said, "Ma, I get you all for myself because Ananya is not here." So that moment, I didn't expect it at all, right?
Yeah.
And it's so. We think they don't really think about all these things. They feel so much, right? And when we give them opportunities to express, I think it diffuses a lot of that emotional pressure on them, and paves a smooth way. Right?
That is why I always recommend, Shobha, this 10 minutes of connection time that I keep talking about, right?
Yeah.
That one-on-one, undistracted, sacrosanct time with each child is like emotional nutrition for them. And if you just do it, you just like do it every day, just 10 minutes. Right? And it really makes a difference to them. For us, we'll be like, "Arey, 10 minutes mein kya hoga?" But it really does make a difference, because that's probably only time in the day that your 100% attention is on that child.
Yeah, absolutely.
When you're not giving them instructions and reminders and ye kar lo, wo kar lo. That is also when our attention is on them, but
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
So Meghna, thank you so much for this wonderful explanation about the psychology behind sibling rivalry, sibling conflicts, and how to avoid conflicts from burgeoning into rivalry and ruining relationships. So thank you for that. And I hope our listeners loved this episode just as much as we did.
So that's our episode for today. Thank you for listening to Big Talk About Tiny Humans, our podcast for parents and educators.
Hope you enjoyed it, and don't forget to share it with your friends and family.
Listen and subscribe to Big Talk About Tiny Humans on the IVM Podcasts app, website, and all major audio platforms. We are available everywhere.
You can follow us on social media and online. Meghna is at The Therapist Mommy on Instagram and YouTube. And you can check out her website, raisingfamilyacademy.com, for a transformative course on raising a child with emotional intelligence.
And Devishobha is at Kidskintha on Twitter and Instagram. And check out kidskintha.com for in-depth articles and events on parenting and child development.
While you're at it, do also check out other great shows from the IVM Podcasts network at shows.ivmpodcasts.com. And IVM is on social media at IVM Podcasts on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram.
We'll catch you again on our next episode.
Do you find yourself in a room full of people talking about investments and insurances and feel left out? Do you also want to understand how to spend your money wisely? Then you have come to the right place. Welcome to SBI Life Presents A Sip of Finance, a women-exclusive podcast where we break down difficult financial topics into simple and straightforward episodes with your host, Priyanka Acharya, a finance expert who's been in the industry for 14 plus years. And not just in English, but in 7 more languages. So tune in every Tuesday for fresh episodes on the IVM Podcast Network and all major podcast streaming platforms.
Working Monday to Friday glued to your chair making you feel dull? Worry not. Get your 5-minute weekly dose of travel around the world with postcards from nowhere. Join me every Thursday as I explore the strange, obscure, and fascinating parts of the world and bring out facets of travel you may not have thought of before. You can find us on the IVM Podcast app, website, or wherever you get your podcast from.